Welcome to the Maximize Business Value podcast brought to you by Mastery Partners, where our mission is to equip business owners like you to maximize your business value and achieve the exit of your dreams, whatever that means to you. With insights gained from over 100 business transactions, we share real-world strategies, lessons, and expert advice to help you build long-term, sustainable value in your business. Each episode is hosted by one of our Mastery certified partners. They're seasoned experts who've helped countless business owners navigate the complexities of growth, scaling, and building value. They bring first-hand experience, actionable insights, and a passion for helping you build a business that thrives. So let's dive in.
This episode is the second of a two-part release. To hear part one, follow the link below. Thank you for listening to the Maximize Business Value podcast.
Yeah, that was another question I was going to ask you, even before we started on this conversation, was where have you seen what's been some of the most fulfilling type engagements you've had where what you brought to the table really moved the needle for these people? And do that because and I know that goes way beyond just providing a tool, so that's a lot deeper.
Yeah, so I'd say some of the most fulfilling work that we've done has been with companies that are in growth mode, and the CEO is very clear that we know where we want to get to, and we've invested in things like EOS. Maybe we've had some executive coaches that weren't thinking about our strategy, and maybe we handpicked as the CEO, like this one person that we're going to invest in, or we've put a few people in executive peer groups and we think that's enough. Those companies already are showing an appetite that they want to invest in getting better.
Yeah.
And so we have several. The one that top of mind that many people could relate to was at 30 million when we started working with them. They were a subcontractor. The founder had attracted talent through building a phenomenal culture, having values that were very clear and lived, and bringing in people that aligned to that. He didn't really believe in hiring through any kind of behavioral analytics. So when we came in to work with him, it was because he was frustrated. He's like, I've gotten a 30 million, I'm doing EOS, I'm creating all these processes in my business, I have an executive coach, but it's not moving the needle.
Yeah.
So he said, I need you guys to come in and understand why I have all this people drama. Mm-hmm. So when we came in and did some work to understand in the organization at the employee level and some focus group interviews to listen to what are the themes we're hearing and what people need that they're not receiving, it turned out they needed two things. He had hired a lot of young leaders because the company grew quickly, and they needed to understand their blind spots. They really didn't understand. They had the process and structure through EOS, and they were agreeing to their rocks. But then they were leaving, and a lot of drama was occurring that was slowing progress. So they were just kind of staying the same, and it felt really difficult. So that was the first thing, is they needed a language for understanding their own blind spots, and then they needed coaching to start working cohesively together as an actual team. Then the second thing that they needed was, in the organization, a way for the employees and the frontline managers to understand their own areas of development and be transparent. And so we put training in place where we teach the leaders how to do that with their direct reports. And then we train all of the employees in understanding their own areas of development, not in learning behavioral assessments, because that doesn't stick.
No.
It's the so what of it. So what do you need to do differently? And that's a theme that we carry through the organization. So they grew from when we started with them at 30 million in 2 years to $80 million.
Wow.
Because they could actually maximize their people.
Sure. Yeah.
And they did have one toxic leader that they had to make a very difficult decision on. But because we were in and working with the owner on kind of a process of trying to help this person with these behaviors and bringing back feedback and
Yep.
coaching that wasn't moving the needle. Once he made the change of getting that person out of the organization, it actually made EOS 100 times more effective
Oh my
because
goodness.
all the
Yeah.
other leaders were looking at him not
Yep.
doing what he was supposed to. And so it
Yep.
gave them a hall pass.
Yeah. Yep. Boy, that happens over and over.
Oh, you're like, story of my life, Melanie.
That is awesome. What great results, though. That's tremendous. That is
Well, it's
awesome.
only because they were willing to do the work. They
Yeah.
were,
Yeah.
and he had a chief of staff that is his right hand that I've had other clients that we could have been able to achieve the same things, but they would not put an executive sponsor beside the CEO that would keep the trains moving because we don't sit
Yeah.
on site.
Well, that's the visionary, integrator relationship, right? You got to have
Hmm.
both. And
Hmm.
rarely can you find both in one person. So, it's
Very. And then
yeah.
how do they have the capacity to be
Yeah. Now, how
both?
do you
Even if
scale
you
if they're both
can.
in one person? Yeah. You're you're pretty stuck. You're
Yeah.
pretty stuck. Wow, what a great success story. So that kind of leads me to how do you make the assessment when you get introduced and start an engagement? Is this going to be an ideal client for you? And we've just been through this process. As you know, we've got three companies. So we've got the event company, the Business Transition Summit, Mastery Partners, the consulting arm, and then we've got a mergers and acquisition side.
Yeah.
And they all kind of work, move people, I would say move people, but potential clients may fall into one of those three areas. So if somebody is just like, man, 10 years from now, I probably want to transition out of my company, they're a great candidate to come to Business Transition Summit and just kind of learn the terminology, learn all the people and players that will be involved in something like that, and just learn about how do I make my business more valuable, And then, of course, what we do at Mastery is we go deep with the company and we help them identify those blind spots like you talked about. Most business owners know where there's issues. They just don't, they're kind of, as you see, they're kind of like, I don't know what to do about that. Or we've always had that issue. I guess I'm just going to have to live with that, or things like that. That with what we do, we gather over 300 data points and we really dive deep in the business and kind of find out where their value problems are. What is something
Hmm.
kind of killing your value? Is something making it where you couldn't transition this business? I mean, you might be under a lawsuit or something. Or there's just things that would make your life better, if we fix those things. And then, of course, the transaction, when they're ready to go to market, that's where North Star comes in. There's a whole deal there. But when we went through our process of determining what is an ideal client,
Hmm.
we had a very short list of things that people just don't qualify to be a client for us.
Hmm.
One is if they're way too small and
Hmm.
they don't have a team. So a
Hmm.
lot of what we talk about, I'm sure what you talk about is enabling your team. And if you don't have a team or you haven't got there yet, then that's too small.
Hmm.
If they're a $200 million company, a lot of what we do, they're doing internally,
Right.
and
Yeah.
they've
They
been
should
down that
be.
road.
Hmm.
Um, and then our third one is no assholes. We just can't deal with people that are
Uh-huh.
that just we're not going to deal with them. We don't, life's too short. But those are like our three criteria.
Hmm.
So what's an ideal client look like for you?
So I would say the first criteria would be it's number of employees because that's going to
Yeah,
impact the complexity of the people issues they're navigating. They may, if they're under, let's say, 30 employees, they just maybe, if we're comparing it to working out, like they don't want the trainer, they want the kettlebell. Just give me the kettlebell.
yeah,
Like I can solve it with
yeah.
disc or some free assessment or whatever, and I can have a
Self-implemented.
one person like come in and do a workshop. Great. Okay, if you're under that number of employees, that's probably what you're willing to invest in. And maybe
Yeah,
your complexity isn't enough, you need more than that. So I'd say at least 30 employees. Typically, the companies we work with, the footprint in the revenue range is that kind of 30 to 250 million.
yep,
And they need to have an executive sponsor that's going to, I'm going to say, drive ownership because I don't like to say hold people accountable because you actually can't hold people accountable.
right.
They
Yeah,
have to
you're not
decide and
controlling their
commit.
paycheck. So
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say those three things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the companies are growing. If they're talking to us, it's not because they're okay with lackluster margins
Yeah.
or okay with erratic years in their business. They have a direction they want to go, and they're not moving there fast enough. So yeah, direction they're looking for, not moving fast enough. CEO that is growth minded, at least 30 employees. I'd say 95% of the time. We have some outliers.
Yep.
And then they are willing to do the work.
Wow.
They're willing to commit to habit creation,
Yep.
which is a lot different than processes. It's a
Do you think
lot different than processes.
do you think that sometimes either the CEO or the senior leadership team in, let's say, a $30 million company came from bigger companies, so they kind of know what's supposed to happen.
Hmm.
They just don't know how do we get there. So,
That's a great question. I'm reflecting on like our probably 7 or 8 top clients right now, and it's a mix within the CEOs. A couple of them, it's a second generation CEO that came in on borrowed trust and is looking at where they've gotten to, and they're stuck at that 25 to $30 million mark,
yep,
and they know that they need to make some changes in people to just overcome that plateau.
yep,
But we do have a few, you're right, like the story I told earlier of the guy that was with the subcontracting business, the founder. He had been in bigger companies,
sure. Yeah.
so he knew.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what I've seen sometimes. I'm on the board of a nonprofit called Biz Owners Ed, so we help owner-led businesses. We call it boot camp for them.
Mhm.
We do a 10-week program for them. And most of our businesses in there, we've had some in the $50 million range, but most of them are probably 3 to 15 million in revenue. So they're a little smaller than what you're describing, but they have all the same problems. It's just that many times they're very young entrepreneurs started the
Mhm.
business that they haven't seen big company systems and processes and
That's
haven't
true.
looked at,
Yeah.
so as they grow, they start encountering problems that are way beyond survival and way beyond this quarter or this year. We're trying to look at, a 3 to 5 year timeline and fast growth. And that's where, sometimes that real fast growth catches up with them very quickly. That they now
Yeah.
have some disarray on their hands.
And it's been interesting because I've had some businesses now that we're talking, I'm listening to you, that are that size and have young founders that bring us in to do work not at the scope we would do with our typical clients.
Yep.
But I've been shocked. We've probably had 5 or 6 in the last year that are, founders under 40
Yep.
that have done very well and are in that 3 to 15 million range and recognize like we need
Yeah.
to do some work now. We're not ready for full talent suite, but can you help us with these three things? And
Yeah.
I've been like, oh my gosh, well, yes, we're going to work with you because, like, why would we not help people like this? You're
Yeah.
going to get to a point where it may not be us, but you're fueling the economy.
Yep, you're doing that, and those are the kind of companies that grow into, the next stage where you can do a lot different things for them as they reach that next stage, and that's always exciting when you can do that. That is very, very cool. Well, this is fascinating. I mean, it's I've done one other podcast about kind of HR and people related things, and by far that was the weakest thing that I did as a business owner is my interaction. I mean, we had a great culture. Everybody loved everybody for the most part. Everybody loved everybody. It was good, but just being formal. Sometimes you have to be formal in people interaction. Sometimes it's very informal. And drawing those
Mhm.
lines was difficult for me. And also, I mean, it's that one thing I did encounter is the people that got you this far may not be the people that are going to take it to the next level. And having those conversations got very, very difficult. And,
Well,
trying to
especially
find
if
homes for those
culture,
folks,
and especially if culture is viewed as we like each other, because that's
Yes.
actually not culture. So culture is a word that gets, it's like strategy. You know how
Yep.
the word strategy, like when I used to be in recruiting, they would say, we want to hire a strategic CFO. And I'm like, oh my goodness, let's step back and talk about some examples of what would be strategic in your eyes. So culture is the same word. Culture is used, especially in smaller business owners, as like, we like each other.
Yeah.
And it's like, culture is a set of agreed upon behaviors that
Yeah.
sit underneath values that the business has been built on.
Yeah.
And if you're operating with a truly strong culture where the behaviors that are being lived are what you said this business is founded upon, then when you have to make a hard decision, it's not hard.
Right.
But if you're running it with a culture we like each other, that's where you get stuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not a
Makes it
measure
very
of
difficult.
culture.
And it's funny, we weren't like a social group. I mean, we didn't
Mm-hmm.
like, go out for happy hour all the time and stuff like that, but everybody got along at the office pretty much. But it was, reading Five Dysfunctions of a Team over and over
Mm-hmm.
again for me has always been, that kind of gets me back to, what's real and what's not when it comes to, you know, exactly what you just described. How does
And
an
one of the biggest
organization
issues we're
operate?
seeing in
Yeah.
small businesses right now is the lack of talking about problems
Yeah.
that are happening in the business because people have become so addicted to
Oh, yeah.
communicating through email and the phone that when they're in the leadership team meetings, the things that need to come up are not coming up.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the five dysfunctions.
Yeah.
Not only is there not true psychological safety to have trust and bring the problems up, because the visionary oftentimes doesn't want to hear it because
Yep.
it's boring and, oh, that we can do that later. And that becomes the
You people
operating
work that
norm in the
out.
culture, right? So that's actually a bigger issue we're seeing in the mid-market space
Uh,
than conflict. It's the lack of conflict right now
yes.
that's the bigger
Yeah.
issue because you can't get commitment and therefore ownership if you don't have productive conflict.
Yep. And it's so, I mean, I can see it. We've had meetings with clients where we'll be in a team situation. We've got a bunch of people there. We have the meeting. And then literally a day later, I start getting texts from the people in the meeting. I didn't bring
Oh,
this up,
God.
but, okay.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, we needed to bring that up. So,
Yeah, you need to have them talk to us.
no kidding.
That's
Now I
what we
know.
work with. We
Uh,
implement five dysfunctions. That's one of the things we do with organizations.
yeah, boy, it's so huge, so huge.
It is. It's people will say this was almost like therapy, you know?
It is therapy.
It
And
is.
it
If you do it
helps
right.
the CEO sleep better, that's for sure. So this is a podcast. It's all about maximizing business value. So in your experience, what's the one thing that you recommend that business owners do to maximize the value of their organization? If you could pick one thing.
Well, I said earlier, I don't believe it's one thing. So I'm going to give you the three things I said earlier. It's investing in the right processes that are functional to run the business and
Yep.
operations, marketing, sales, all of those functional areas, which you guys, hello, Mastery Partners, we
Yep.
need
Yep.
you. It's having the ability to understand how to get people in the right seats. And then it's giving people the training they need
Yeah.
to have the relationships to make the deposits. So as the business evolves, they can make the withdrawals that need to happen.
Yeah.
So it's
A
all
great way to
three. It
put it.
can't just
Yeah.
be one. There's not one thing
Yeah.
that creates the most business value. Of course, every expert's going to say what they do is, but I
Yeah,
don't agree with that.
exactly. Well, I'm talking to John Gorbett later this afternoon about due diligence, so I know what his is going to be. So
Well, hey, it probably won't be people, right? It will be
it won't
something
be
else.
people, I'll guarantee you.
No one wants to say people because it's the hardest area of the business to get your arms around.
The hardest, the most expensive, the most challenging, and all that, all the above. Oh my goodness. Well, super. So, for folks to get a hold of you, it's Talent Suite LLC, right?
Mhm.
Melanie at Talent Suite LLC.
Melanie.Shaffer.
Melody.Schaefer. Okay, cool. Excellent. And well, we'll be posting this all over, and of course you'll have a copy of it as well, so you can use it on your social media side of the world as well. So it's been
Absolutely.
fascinating. It's just what a wonderful thing that you're doing. I just love it. It's
Same for you guys.
exciting.
Symbiotic, man. You got to have the people side
Yes,
in alignment with all of the areas you're helping them put processes
you
in place
do.
around.
And I will say it's probably it's tied to that owner dependency I mentioned earlier, but it's one of the things that always pops up when we do that assessment that we do is that, yeah, we got work to do in this area. So it is a great symbiotic relationship. We certainly treasure it. So with that, this has been the Maximize Business Value podcast. I can't even speak. Where we give practical advice to business owners on how to build long-term sustainable value in the business. We air one of these podcasts each week, so be sure to subscribe and tune in. And thanks again, Melanie, for joining us. And we'll see you next week.
All right.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Maximize Business Value podcast. I hope today's conversation sparked new ideas on how you can continue driving value in your business. But remember, it's not just about listening. It's about taking massive action. Visit our website, masterypartners.com, for more resources. Grab a copy of any of the books in the Maximize Business Value series on Amazon or via the links below. And don't hesitate to reach out if you want to know how to apply these concepts to your business. So until next time, I'm Tom Bronson, reminding you to relentlessly execute while you maximize business value.